The Washington Post admits that Roger Stone, the man, the myth, the legend, did nothing wrong. Even the Washington Post now admits, according to the National File, that Roger Stone, who has been persecuted more than almost any man that I know by the government and its goons, is joining us on the show right now to discuss the kangaroo court of the January 6th committee. Good morning, Roger. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. It's nice to see you.
Austin, great to be with you.
Yeah, glad to have you here, Roger. Now, you're a man who needs no introduction. Many of the people who have been watching my show know who you are and what you're all about. You call yourself a libertarian. You go back to the Nixon administration. You've always fought for limited government causes, and because of that, you have been persecuted from then until today. But it seems as if the persecution has stepped up even more in recent years, not just by the government, but by private companies who have attempted to suppress your voice on platforms. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and take this show down just for me having you on here today, but we cannot be afraid. We have to go forward and fight against the enemies of liberty and stand together, Roger. What is the Washington Post piece that the National File is referencing, claiming in regards to your innocence compared to the January 6th committee's assertions?
Well, Austin, thanks for having me. First of all, I think it's important to recognize that I was not even on the ellipse on January 6th, did not march to the Capitol, wasn't at the Capitol. An FBI investigation that concluded in March concluded that neither I nor Alex Jones had anything to do with any illegal act on January 6th, or was I involved other than public commentary, which I think is still allowed under the First Amendment, regarding the delay in the certification of Electoral College. But the Washington Post is still bent out of shape over the fact that I escaped the deadly snare set for me by Robert Mueller and Adam Schiff, in which I was charged for lying to Congress, get this, about Russian collusion. How does one lie about something that we now know definitively didn't actually happen? So because I'm a 42-year friend of Donald Trump and advisor, I have been repeatedly targeted. You're right, I'm banned for life on Twitter. That happened in 2017. Banned for life on Facebook. That happened in 2020. Banned for life on Instagram. Banned for life on TikTok, which is great because now the red Chinese can't get into my computer. It is, so I am limited, unfortunately, to the ghetto of alternative and conservative social media, where I have to punch back against these charges. This is really quite simple. Evidently, I was in a chat room with dozens of other people, but that chat room included Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers, who, as you know, is currently charged with seditious conspiracy. By the way, in America, you're still innocent until proven guilty. And he has not yet been tried or found guilty, but I've had no contact with him. I've never spoken to the man. We just happened to be in the same chat room. And looking back at it, I wasn't very active in it, but I never responded to a number of provocative opinions that he put forward. But they would like to, kind of use this to pull me into a conspiracy where none exists. In fact, Austin, Thursday, the final kabuki theater of the January 6th committee hearing will be focused, on me and also on Ginny Thomas. So look for a cornucopia of supposition, conjecture, innuendo, selectively edited and cherry-picked videos, maybe even some deep fake videos. This is an Adam Schiff production directed by Jamie Raskin, one of the oiliest characters I've ever seen. I thought Schiff was shady until I saw this guy Raskin. It's a hit job, but this is how it works. It drives the crowd on Twitter insane. They demand your blood, and they try to stampede the Justice Department into cooking up some charge against you. I will be ready to respond, but it's no way to live, I must tell you.
Yeah, I can imagine. So if you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to Roger Stone. You can send us a text at 573-319-1037. 1586. Now, as to the allegations that you were part of some kind of a criminal conspiracy, the Washington Post cited an ex federal prosecutor named Barbara McQuaid that said that a one way transmission from Rhodes does not establish that Stone or any other Trump advisors were part of any conspiracy. Essentially, confirming what you're saying there, that just simply by being spoken to, just because, I have a lot of friends, some of them may be oath keepers. And if they say to me, hey, Austin, let's go overthrow the government, just because they said that to me doesn't mean that I'm part of a conspiracy.
Yeah, and it's particularly interesting because Barbara McQuaid was among my harshest critics. She insisted for 2 years I was a Russian spy, I was involved in Russian collusion. She is certainly no friend of Roger Stone. She was really vicious during my trial. People don't really realize this, but on November 3rd, 2020, based on a judge's ruling, the Justice Department was forced to release the last remaining redacted sections of Robert Mueller's report, in which he concluded that he had, quote, no factual basis, close quote, to charge me with Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any involvement in the phishing or publication of John Podesta's authentic and extraordinarily embarrassing emails. That was picked up by absolutely nobody other than BuzzFeed, who brought the actual lawsuit. And they sued the government thinking that these documents would be embarrassing to me. Even they admitted that I was vindicated. But look for that in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal or MSNBC or the three networks who vilified me for 2.5 years, destroyed me financially, and tried to destroy me personally. I mean, I lost my home, my car, my savings, my most of my insurance. My wife was my rock during a 2-year ordeal in which I had to stand trial before a hateful, biased federal judge who made no effort to hide her hatred for me or Donald Trump. Attacked Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones from the bench when they criticized her. She didn't believe that federal judges should be allowed to be criticized. A rigged jury. We now know that she hid that section of the Mueller report from us before trial, even though we had asked for it. We were denied it. No, it was a Soviet style show trial. And it is only my faith in God and my prayer to the Almighty that I'm with you today.
Yeah,
I
and you
really
were all
honestly,
you were also the subject of a SWAT raid as well. I mean, fully armed federal agents raiding your home, as if you were some kind of Mexican drug lord or something ridiculous. If you're just tuning into the show this morning, we're speaking to the legendary Roger Stone about the kangaroo court of the January 6th Commission. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Now, Roger, you know me. I campaigned in 2016 for the presidency as a libertarian. Eventually that nomination went to Governor Gary Johnson, but I was very harshly critical of Donald Trump at that time, and I changed my mind about him in those 4 years of his presidency because, unlike almost any other president coming before him, he actually did some very libertarian things. You know me as a very deeply principled person, and all I care about are the policies which will advance individual liberty in this country, which is why I was comfortable voting for Donald Trump the second time. And I wonder if you would help me to sort of make a decision here as to the future. If Donald Trump were to run again, do you think that it's a good idea, one, for him to run again? Would you support him if he runs again? And if he was against someone like Ron DeSantis, for example, who's done a terrific job as the governor of Florida, your home state, and somebody who I certainly admire, if this tension arises in the Republican Party, who would you support, and how should we look at that kind of a conflict?
well, first of all, I think Trump is our strongest nominee because it will take iron cojones to take on the left. I also think he's learned a lot of lessons. I think he underestimated the deep state. I think he underestimated the level of hatred for him among the ruling elite of both parties. I think he's got a very good bead on those in the Republican Party who are in it for the money and the power, but believe in nothing whatsoever and collude with the Democrats. I also think Ron DeSantis is 42 years old, and I'd like him to stay as governor of Florida. His first 2 years were not too good. He found his footing in the last 2 years. He's done a terrific job on the cancel culture, on the effort to indoctrinate our children into public schools with sex, race, and gender lies. He's done a great job on the mask mandates, although we did have mask mandates for 2 years. But I think there's plenty of time for Ron DeSantis. Trump is still dominant in this party. I would, of course, support him because I owe my life to him. I would either still be in federal prison or more probably dead right now, had he not had the courage and the strength to pardon me. So, there's a personal loyalty there, but I also believe he is our strongest candidate. I think he's learned a great deal about who his enemies are.
Roger, you're not only a political pragmatist, but you're also an idealist in certain ways. And I know you're a man of ideas, not just a man of action. So I'll ask you this question. This is kind of a big brain question, but the current groundswell within the Republican Party seems to be a movement towards a new right, which they call maybe a populist right. Some of them, if they want to be more formal, will call themselves national conservatives. And quite frequently, these national conservatives will speak out against people like yourself and myself, people who are libertarians, because they, either one, don't care about our social views when it comes to tolerance, but they also don't care for our views on economics either, attacking people like Friedrich Hayek or Ludwig von Mises or, Ronald Reagan's views on the economy, because they see, the left as someone who will, they're not going to leave us alone, so we shouldn't leave them alone. And that we should go get away from these ideas of slashing government, to get away from these ideas of Friedrich Hayek. Do you have an opinion about the national conservative movement and their views of libertarians? Is this something that we as libertarians should actively resist, or is this a battle with our cousins? How do you see this struggle that's currently occurring within the Republican Party?
Nowhere is this more manifest than in the area of foreign policy. I mean, the war in Ukraine is a perfect example. The folks you're talking about have supported giving billions of dollars to Ukraine for a foreign war where our inherent national interests are just not clear to me. And they may be walking us up to the brink of World War III. I really think there was an anti-interventionist wave in the Republican Party that was really growing stronger. Trump manifested that by saying he was going to pull our troops back from the Middle East. He was tired of the endless foreign wars. Most libertarians, I think, in the Republican Party, after Rand Paul folded, moved to Trump as the most viable option. The folks you're talking about sure look like and smell like rhinos to me. In other words, I think they're trying to redefine themselves. This is my concern about Ron DeSantis. I mean, he's a Yale graduate. He was an establishment Republican in the House. He seems to have gotten religion, but he's also kind of zealot-like, imitating the style of Donald J. Trump. So I think that we have to recognize that the Lindsey Grahams of this world, the McCain Republicans, they may try to reinvent themselves, but they're the same old sellouts that they were. It's Bush republicanism, which isn't republicanism at all.
You're just tuning into the show. We're speaking to Roger Stone. He is joining us now on the line. Roger, you're the host of your own show called The Stone Zone that I was on this last Friday. It's a great show. It's on Mike Lindell's network. For all of our listeners who are big fans of yours, who would like to catch your commentary and be able to follow you, even though you have been suppressed on social media, where's the best place for people to go to be able to follow you and hear your commentary, Roger?
Thank you for asking. You go to frankspeech.com at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern. Today, Ashley Babbitt's mother joins us because it is Ashley's 37th birthday for a discussion. And you scroll down to Lindell TV 2. So go to frankspeech.com. The first screen you see will be Lindell TV 1. I think there's a rerun of The War Room with Steve Bannon. You scroll down to Lindell TV 2, you can see the Stone Zone every day at 4 o'clock Central Time. I was honored to have you last week, and I'm looking forward to having Ashley Babbitt's mother, Mickey Withoff, will be with us today to commemorate Ashley Babbitt's birthday. Ashley Babbitt, for those who don't know, is the decorated Air Force combat veteran who was brutally murdered, unarmed, menacing no one, shot and killed in cold blood without warning inside the Capitol on January 6th. There have never been any charges brought against Officer Johnny Bird, who murdered her. In fact, he was given a medal, I believe, or an honor. So I'm very pleased that she's able to join us today. Again, frankspeech.com at 4 o'clock Central, where you are, and you can tune in for the Stone Zone. We're there 5 days a week, every weekday.
Roger Stone, the man, the myth, the legend. We are super grateful for your time today. Thank you very much. Keep up the good fight, and we'll definitely have you back.